If there was any one thing that set me back the most in my young adult life, young man, it was just having no confidence. And I want to talk to you about how I changed all of that. By doing one single thing. That's what I want to talk to you guys about today on the video. That, young man, I've talked to you here and there throughout the years about confidence, and I've kind of touched on it lightly, but I want to really get in depth with you guys about confidence and how the lack of that in my life really held me back. And the hope is that maybe some of you young men can identify with this story about my own life, and it'll let you know by the thing that I did to change it that you can change this. You don't have to stay in this spot of just having no confidence, young men, because it will hurt you. It'll cripple you. It'll stop you from pursuing things. It'll just hold you back. It held me back my entire young adult life. Don't want that for you, or as far back as I can remember. Young men, it seemed to me like I was different. I was just different from these other men or other kids that I came up with. I can go as far back as grade school and, just see things in other kids that, they just seem to be in my mind. Now, this wasn't true, but this is just in my mind. They just seem to be better. They just seem to be better than me. They could run faster. They could throw further. They can... I'm thinking about my next door neighbor, Fred Murray. As kids, we're just, farting around with time and just throwing rocks. And Fred would throw rocks that hasn't even landed yet. And I could barely throw to the curb, right? So it was just stuff like that. That in my mind, there was always this issue of not being able to measure up, right? And I struggled with that the better part of my life. Think about it, young man. I don't know, I didn't get a lot of positive reinforcement, from parents when I was coming up. Don't get me wrong. My parents loved me. They cared for me, never missed a meal, none of that stuff. But, I wasn't having Tony Robbins sessions, with my father, right? You can do it. You're more, you can be so much more. I didn't have that type of stuff coming up. My father worked 2 jobs. So there wasn't this positive reinforcement early on in life. And quite candidly, I don't know if any kids, in my generation, nobody really knew about that. Like, I found out about that stuff, young men, once I got into my 20s and started reading about, self-esteem and self-worth and this, that, and the other. But nobody was talking about that, at least in my household. Nobody was really talking about that. So listen, if you're someone who just likes to watch my videos and not really take any real action, you can skip past this part and go to the part where I'm just giving the free game and remain the same forever. But if you're ready to take your life serious, if you're tired of being stuck, if you're tired of being in the same spot, young man, I offer one-on-one coaching. Coaching to remove the limiting self-beliefs that has you where you are now. Coaching to be able to address the bad habits, the lack of discipline, the lack of structure that has you stuck and is keeping you from elevating your life to the type of life that you truly want to live. I've been talking to you guys from day one about having options in life, and whether that is money, women, time, whatever. You need to be able to change yourself internally to get that. And that's where my one-on-one coaching can help you. So listen, click the first link in the video description below. Let's have a conversation, see if we're a good fit, see if you qualify for the coaching, and let's go to work. Now let's get back to the video. So, there was always this sense of lacking, right? Of just not, I was a bigger kid, so that kind of stood out. And then, young man, there's the expectation of being a bigger kid. I dealt with that my entire life. Oh, you should be able to, you shouldn't be afraid of that. You should be, and I was, right? And that made me feel like some type of way. I'll give you guys a good example that I was terrified of dogs when I was coming up. And, it was the idea, you big enough to eat a dog. You shouldn't be afraid. So now it's like, damn, what's wrong with me? I'm afraid. Everybody's telling me that I shouldn't be, but I am. So now that's another mark, against my lack of confidence. You get a little older and now you get into sports. And again, the size thing. You should be knocking walls down. You should be doing this. You should be doing that, because I started off in football. And young man, I can remember like it was yesterday that this coach told my father, man, I haven't thought about this in years. The coach told my father, you know what? He ain't mean enough. I understand now as an adult that, yeah, there's a certain level of aggression that has to go forth or that has to be present when you're playing football. And young man, I was a kid. I'm sorry. I didn't grow up in mean streets. I didn't grow up in the hood. I didn't grow up having to fight my way, to school and back every day. So I'm just a kid. And he ain't mean enough. So now we get into sports, and now that's another Nick that I'm seeing all of these other kids who can run, jump, tackle, do all of this stuff, and I'm like, holy shit, I can't do this shit. So that was the whole sports thing. Even before that, young man, I would try out for a basketball team, 6th grade. And guys, it was you try out and then you go wait and they put your name on the paper and pin it to the board if you've made the team. And young man, just heart-wrenching that, and it's not like I didn't try. I went out there, I tried, I did my best, and they would put the name up on the board. And I think, young man, it was maybe like 10 slots, and only 13 or 14 of us tried out. And they put the paper up, and I wasn't there. So now here comes the jokes, and you sorry, and you, oh my gosh, man. So again, another knock on the confidence. And you have to keep in mind, young man, during this time, there is absolutely nobody telling me that, you know what, yeah, you worth something, you valuable, you this, you that, forget about that. Your personhood is enough. Even if you are not good in sports, or even if you are afraid of dog, as a person, you are good enough. Nobody was telling me that, young man. Nobody was telling me that back then, right? So I have these compounding blows of essentially thinking that I'm just not good enough. So now we get into high school, right? And now you start talking about girls, and now we really start talking about popularity, athletics, and that type of thing. Now I'm bigger than I was, and now I'm just that awkward, goofy, big kid, right? And I have to tell you guys too that there was a ton of bullying, especially in my junior high school years. Ton of bullying that went on, and because I didn't have that proper sense of self-worth, young man, I allowed that, and it just got worse, and that just kind of trickled down, or that just kind of beat the confidence in the ground too. So yeah, went through high school. It wasn't terrible, but when I look back on it, because I didn't have any confidence, I didn't really try hard in school. I played sports, but I wasn't really trying to become good at it. I was just going through the motions and doing it. So yeah, that was kind of my background, man, in how I just came up with, just no self-confidence in myself, young man, none at all. Afraid to talk to women, awkward with them, because I didn't see myself as these other guys, as these more popular guys. They looked so cool and natural to me, and I just wasn't that. I think like my sophomore year, and for some reason, young man, like I just gave up. I didn't care about how I dressed. I wore the same stuff every day practically, because I just didn't care. And internally, young man, it was just this thing of, I don't matter. because I am not like these people. That went on for the better part of my young adult life. And then, young man, somewhere around 1920, I got introduced to a bodybuilding gym. And young man, that changed everything for me. That changed everything for me. I knew nothing about bodybuilding or working out or anything like that. And I saw these guys, these muscular bodybuilding guys, and I knew that I wanted to do that. I knew that I, for the first time, young men, that I can remember, I was excited about something, right? That there was an interest there that really got my attention. And young man, I started working out. I didn't know a whole lot. I was embarrassed. I would wait and watch guys work out. And then, because it was a pretty popular gym, so, you know, a lot of women in there, that type of thing. So because I didn't have the right confidence, young man, I didn't want to go up there and everybody, you know, is looking at me and I can barely lift any type of weight. I'm a bigger guy. So again, the expectation, but I don't have any real strength, any natural strength. So I'm embarrassed to do to try to work out while people is there. So young man, I would watch. We had like a little bar area in the front of this gym. So I would sit up there and act like I was looking at the magazines, but what I was really doing was watching these guys work out. And then when the gym would clear out a little bit, I would go up and I would start doing these exercises. And again, young man, I started off knowing nothing. And over time, I started to really develop and my body started to change. I started to get some shape. I was going from this, you know, tall, fat, goofy kid to, you know, somebody that looked like they had a little something to them, right? And here's the thing. For the first time ever, I felt good about myself, my confidence back. Was training my body, changing my body, becoming more fit, getting into a gym, was changing my body, becoming more fit, getting into a gym and exercising. Young man, that changed everything for me. It really did. Because now that I felt better about myself that I normally would take, I started to stand up for myself more. I went from this, you know, awkward, shy, goofy kid to like the man for a while. Young man, I can remember women that paid me no attention when we were in school. They would go off to college and then they would come back and maybe I haven't seen them in a year or so. And now all of a sudden it was the, you know, hey, how are you? Man, you've been working out or something like that, you know, that type of thing. And that just fueled, young men, the self-confidence. What fueled it even more, young men, is that not only was I working out and changing my body, but I was learning to do something, right? That, like I told you guys in the beginning, when I started off, I knew nothing about this. At some point I got comfortable enough to start asking questions. I started reading more. Like, again, young man, I had something that I was interested in, and now I'm learning about it. And over time, I became really knowledgeable at it. So I wasn't only changing my body, I was learning how to do a thing and learning how to do it well. At some point, I was the guy in the gym that people were coming to about how do I get my arms bigger? How do I get this? So there was some competency as well. What changed the whole game for me was learning how to do something, was changing my body, number one, and then learning how to do something well. That gave me the confidence to try other things. That gave me the belief in myself. That gave me some esteem that for the first time in life, young man, I felt good about myself. I literally went from someone who, you know, maybe a girlfriend or two here or there. I went from that to in a year and a half time, young man, and I make no exaggeration, and I'm not proud of it, but it's the truth. I've forgotten more women than I have slept with during this period in my life. Talk about a confidence boost. So how did I do that? I got myself in shape and I learned to do something really well. It doesn't have to be the gym. It could be anything that you're interested in, that you can become good at. Now I take that back. The gym is important, young man. If you don't have any confidence, changing how you see yourself could be the first step. So yeah, the gym is important. That is a way. That is definitely a way, young man, that you can start feeling better about yourself. Young man, if you're struggling with confidence, change your body. Go get in shape. Go get in shape so when you look at yourself, you can like what you see. That's the first step. Before anybody else can be impressed with you, you got to be impressed with yourself. So the one thing that you can impact now is your physique, is how you see yourself. Then behind that, young man, find something that you enjoy and get good at it. Master it. Become competent in it. And that will have an effect on your confidence as well. Young man, it changed everything for me. Those two things, getting into a gym, getting my body together, and learning something, learning to be good at something. Those two things arguably changed my life. And I won't lie to you guys, there's still struggles. There's definitely still struggles in that because of my past and my childhood. But what I will tell you emphatically is that I am nowhere near where I was when I started. So if you're having a struggle with confidence like I was back then, that's a way, young men. That is definitely a way that you can start addressing that. Okay? So listen, that is all I have, young men. Hope that helps you guys. Hope that adds some value. Listen, there's some great resources in the description below. I got a free ebook. I have a course down there. The school community is up and running. Definitely check those out, young men. Definitely some things that'll be able to help you guys out. All right? So listen, I am the Over 50 guy / the online dad. We'll be back with another one soon.